From boardroom meetings to bedtime stories, Coffee in the Barn explores the delicate dance of balancing the demands of our professional lives with the joys and responsibilities of being moms. Join us each week as we discuss the latest trends in agribusiness, share insightful interviews with industry experts, and sprinkle in some heartfelt anecdotes about the humorous and heartwarming moments that come with being a working mom in agriculture.
Well, welcome to this week's episode on Coffee in the Barn, and it's a pleasure to have a friend, colleague, and fellow Spartan alumni on with us today. I know it's Big Ten rivalry, football season starting, Morgan. You're probably cheering for the Badgers, and we're going to cheer for the Spartans here, so 2-1 there. But thank you, Adrienne, for being on the Coffee in the Barn.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here, and go green.
Yes. And we're wearing our green. Well, I'm wearing green. You're not, and you got always green in the hair, so it's fabulous.
Yeah, that's one of the ways I can support them down in Indiana, since they don't have green here. It's terrible.
Well, you have green corn.
It's true.
But it's going to change until, brown here soon.
Yes.
But anyways, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and give them a little bit of a background? Because you I don't think you set out to be a swine nutritionist, but you are today.
Yeah. So just as an introduction, my name is Adrienne Woodward. I am currently serving as the Senior Manager of Discovery and Novel Products at United Animal Health, located in Sheridan, Indiana. I'm from a small town in Texas, grew up as a horse girl, 100% through and through. Went to West Texas A&M University for my undergrad degree, where I studied equine industry and business. So all horses all the way. I was also part of their horse judging team there, and was part of their NCAA equestrian team. And when I was there, I really didn't want to go do any research, because I'd helped with a research trial that I didn't particularly like. So I got my MBA, also from West Texas A&M. While doing my MBA, ironically, I did some more research that I really appreciated and really liked, having to do with, particularly with the gut and what the gut could do. And that really sparked something in me that I thought, okay, yeah, this research I can do. This is not digestibility research. This is something that really affects the whole body. So I decided then that I did want to go to grad school and pursue upper level PhD, master's, MS, master's, PhD. And at the time, nobody had any funding for me. So I took a year off and went to Italy and rode horses. So I did that instead. And then I came back and went to Michigan State University, where I got my MS in equine industry, or equine exercise physiology and nutrition, and then my PhD in equine nutrition. Doing that, it was we started to use the pig as a model for the horse, because they're both hindgut fermenters. And that kind of got me to shift away from using the horse and seeing the horse as a model, because that's my hobby. And I didn't want my hobby to ever be my job or something that I always had to. I know you're supposed to do what you love and you never work a day in your life, but I loved the gut. And, cutting open horses and getting to their gut was not something that I really loved to do. So pigs are a little more available for that, because they are part of the food chain. And, they're have the meat laboratory at Michigan State. And because of that, we could get gut, and we could utilize that for my PhD work, and use that as the model for what would happen on the horse. So that kind of got me, I guess people would say, to the dark side or to the right side, whatever you want to call it, in the pig industry. So graduated from there, went to the University of Alberta up in Canada, and did a postdoc looking at the gut and E. coli, and did a presentation that kind of caught the eye of some people at United, and they interviewed me, and the rest is history. So now I'm down working with United Animal Health.
Well, that's awesome. But let's talk about riding horses in Italy. I love Italy anyways. What was that like, going over there to ride?
That was exciting times. I mean, it was something that was very different. I was training horses there. They had one of the best quarter horse barns, one of the only quarter horse barns in Italy. And I just kind of stumbled into it because my professor at the time said, who wants to go to Italy? And never one to not be a smart ass, excuse my language. I was like, ooh, pick me. And he said, well, this could work because you're not doing anything right now that's that important. And I was like, thank you, I think. I don't really know I'm not really sure how to take this. But so it was a Friday, and by Monday I was dropping the classes I was taking because I was just trying to stay in school and take some classes. So when I went to Michigan State, I would have those credits. So I always joke that I'm also a college dropout. So I dropped those classes and was on a plane in a month and headed over there and riding and showing and just kind of.
What an opportunity.
It was great. It was wonderful. And now I can listen to Italian, but I can pick like 4 words out of it occasionally. That's it.
Yeah. Google Translate has changed world travel.
Yes. They did not have that when I was there.
How did you, so you didn't speak any Italian when you were over there?
I did not speak any Italian when I was there. I took a course, which was good for me. I could understand it by the time I left. And they say it takes about a year, and I was over there for about 9 or 10 months. So I was finally at the point where I was just understanding and not translating. But most of the people there wanted to practice their English on me. So, that's kind of how it goes.
It was a win-win then.
Right.
Looking back in your career, because obviously you have basically, become a senior leader in the discovery innovation part of United Animal Health. And I always want to call it United, JBS United, but yeah, we've changed names and stuff. But do you think that helped you into becoming that leadership and confidence as you went on with your studies and different things?
I think any new experience is going to help you with that, because I've had to engross myself in completely different places everywhere I've gone. Moving from Texas to Michigan, that's not an easy move. Moving from Texas to Italy, moving from Michigan to Canada, every place I've gone, there's been a change in how I'm going to approach things and who I'm going to approach things and who do I ask for help. And I think that kind of helps shape the path that you're going to go down throughout your career. So anytime you can kind of put yourself in an uncomfortable situation is typically good. Like most scientists, I am in fact an introvert. So that could not work well for me if I was going to do anything of substance in any of these places I've gone. So I had to force myself to be a little more extroverted, to learn some things, to take a step out of the comfort zone and just kind of be a little different. And then I could go back and rest and be an introvert for a little while, but then, step out of the comfort zone again and make sure that I had to learn something through those experiences.
I think that's awesome. And you touched on another point, and I try to also younger professionals or people going to school didn't want my hobby to become my job. And I kind of like that because especially if you're going to become an equine vet, and I spoke to a few of those, and like, you love horses. That's obviously why you want to become an equine vet, but your stature may not be built for the grueling job, the brutal job. And I remember, Al's like, you should probably work in the farrowing house. It's going to be better on your body than working in the gestation or breeding barn all the time. And he was probably actually right, but just because he told me that, I, wasn't going to say he was right, and prove him wrong. But I think that kind of also goes into it. Like, you could enjoy your horses, and then yet you still have passion because everything you do cross applies to your horse.
Yeah, it does. And I find it's interesting to me now because, I'm very much in feed ingredients and specialty products. And so I've become the voice of nutrition within our barn in a way. So it's a lot of people ask me, well, what if I use this? Will this work? And I do get to dig back into my horse background and try to think if that's going to be something that could potentially help the horse's issues, or even taking the pig stuff and saying, well, that might not work, but thinking about an ingredient that we've utilized in the pig side, looking at something else that's specifically made for horse, but does, it's the same kind of ingredient that we use in pig, just say, this would probably work better. Let's try that in a little bit. So it's a good utilization of kind of all of my degrees coming together and still working the way it should work. So that makes me excited. And then I'm also working in poultry and ruminants as well. So we're really getting an expansion of knowledge. And I think it helps me stay advanced in my career and keep learning. And I think that's important for me for sure.
Well, and I would say you're probably not the typical Texan cowgirl because you do dressage and jumping, if I follow you properly.
Yeah, I started out doing Western, and then now when I moved to Michigan, it was hunter jumpers, and now I didn't start. I've talked to some people lately, and I said I just started jumping in my 30s, and they're like, "What?" So I even have to tell my trainer sometimes, like, I haven't been doing this that long. I'm not, I'm not one of those kids that was riding when they were, jumping ponies at 3 foot when they were like 8 and they're fearless. I'm like, that pole is really too high off the ground. If we could put that down some, that would be ideal. But it's fun. It's it's challenging, and I've got a good horse that helps me out. I think that she calls me Aunt Amateur Hour half the time, so it's good. Mom Amateur Hour now.
Well, talk about that relationship between horses and the trust you've had. You've ridden all your life and you're a horse girl. How has that translated over into you becoming a leader?
I think that's just, I think the thing with the horses is you have to read them and understand them, and you have to, it really is that helps build that trust is, try to understand what they're thinking and they're doing and why they're reacting the way they're reacting. And you can take some of that same thing to people skills. It's, obviously people are more vocal than horses. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a horse whisperer and know all these things, but if you can just still watch the same things, how people are doing their tones, and really listen to what they're saying, it's easy to kind of figure out where their issues are, where their scare tactic is, what really is the problem. So you can there's a lot of cross fostering there of, is the horse scared of something, or are they being they don't want to work? And so, you can kind of translate that into people. Are they frustrated with just this one issue, or are they frustrated with something much bigger? And what is the bigger issue that they're frustrated with? So it's all about listening, learning, paying attention, and just kind of staying out of people's way sometimes and letting them figure it out themselves, which I think is important too.
Well, I'm no crazy horse lady. My sister has a horse, and I kind of have dabbled here and there. But I think what's interesting with horses, and you can kind of apply it to other species, is, they can't talk. So it's all based on body language. And even with humans, there's a lot that humans can say through their body language. And I think that's the biggest translation that I've learned from animals to humans is there's a lot people say with no words.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%.
I love this conversation. What has pigs taught you about people management?
Oh man, them little pigs, they're so cute. I do like to walk into a gestation lactation room and go bacon bits, and they don't tend to like that very much. But I think the pigs, they're super smart. They're really they're interesting animals as well. I think they also, it's the same kind of thing where you just watch them and try to understand if they're feeling well, if they're not feeling well. And I think they give the same kind of vibes that any other animal would give or any human would give. If they're doing okay, if they're happy with their place, if they've eaten enough, if they've had enough to drink, are they feeling cruddy? Do they have something wrong with them? And again, it's that underlying just watching and paying attention that you can get so much more out of than even sometimes just having a conversation with somebody, you get so much more out of, like Morgan said, just body language and if they're quiet and they're typically not, or something like that, that's just different than the personality that you're used to. And you can definitely get a lot out of that, and it'll translate.
I think we're talking about active listening too. And obviously we don't listen to words coming out of our animal counterparts per se, but we do. I mean, with people, we get words as well, but we also have to be in tuned. I'm really in tune to people's auras and energy. So if I'm around a lot of negative people, I start feeling that, and it drains me because I'm an introvert as well. And positive people, that picks me up and inspires me. So that's some of the things I've picked up on as I've aged and become wiser, as I say. But
Yep. I can't. Yeah. If people come to me, I understand there's a place to vent, and sometimes you just need to vent. But if you vent to me about the same thing 7 times and you haven't come to me with a solution, I get very frustrated. I'm like, what do we want to do? Now we're just repeating ourselves, and I can't handle it.
yeah.
That's the whole letting people do their own thing. But, where do you guide them into making a solution, or where do you guide them into let's figure this out. Let's make a solution. I am try to be solution driven, but it's, yeah, I understand let's not be negative all the time. I need to be positive.
I was going to say, we really both kind of started our industry career around the same time. And you came into a company. I thought you were very brave to go in there. You were, I think, the only female nutritionist at the time at United. And you've risen through the ranks even in the industry. How do you think that's changing with more women becoming nutritionists today, and seeing some of that in your experiences through your career?
I love seeing women taking over these senior roles. I think it's great. I think they bring something very different to the table. A lot of organization and thought process and empathy and caring and things that, men just aren't wired to see sometimes. So I love to see that the women are coming in and taking these roles and seeing the big picture and understanding what's going on, but then also seeing some little things that their attention to detail is so great and awesome. And the way that they can take things and move them that haven't been moved before. With our company, you're correct. I was one of the first ones. I still sometimes worry that, am I one of the first ones still in management? But there's some other women in here that are in management, and it's great to see. And it's so refreshing to see as well. And, I don't think about it very much, but I know that some people in my company have reached out and said, it is amazing to see you rise up through these things. And you're such an inspiration. And I just find that, it's 2024. Like, this shouldn't be inspiring. This should be every day, right? Like, this shouldn't be something that
groundbreaking.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, I appreciate it, but this should just be an everyday thing. Like, okay, we've got men here, we've got women here, everything's working. So, I really hope that it continues to change and we continue to see women in these roles, and that these companies understand, how much we bring to the table, and how seeing things differently is not necessarily a bad thing. As a matter of fact, it's going to be what's going to drive a lot of change that needs to happen within the industries.
Have you done anything internally with your team to kind of help bridge that gap between men and women, or even like on the mentoring side, mentoring females that have come in and kind of, I don't want to say grooming them, but what tips would you give them early in their career to kind of help them get to the point that you're at?
I think that some of the things that you have to do is just stay true to yourself, no matter what. It gets a little difficult sometimes to really, how am I crossing the line between being a boss woman and being a grumpy woman? How do I toe that line appropriately, where what I say is going to be taken seriously and not be heard as she's just having a PMS attack or something like that, right?
We can just say,
right, exactly. So I think some of the things that I try to tell people are be true to yourself. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. And when you do speak up, make sure you know what you're going to say. If you stumble over your words, if you put in too many words, if you say a lot, then you don't come off as really serious about what you're trying to get across. And if that means practicing, that's okay. If you have to type it out, that's okay. I mean, there's things that I'll write out and go away for a while and come back and rewrite it and figure it out again and make sure that what I am putting across stays true to me, but also gets the point across. And I think that needs to happen a lot with women, because that's going to help them have the confidence to stand up and believe what they're saying. And they're going to come across more as, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is how it's going to be done. And nobody's going to question it because it's just a leadership thing. And I think that's important.
And how many direct reports do you have now, Adrienne?
I technically only have 2 direct reports, but they're both teams. So they're both managers. So I've got 2 direct reports, and then I think about 7 that are under them. So
wow.
It's good. And yeah, we've had, there's team building activities. Both my managers that report to me are great. They are very good about making sure that their reports are happy, and how do we make sure the teams get along, and what do we need to do to have a team building day one day. And, if they have issues or they have problems, they'll come to me. They know that their people are allowed to come to me and talk if we need to. So the good thing I think about United is that we're very open to having discussions on how do we make sure mentally everybody's okay. It's starting to be a big thing. Mental health is starting to be huge. So how do we make sure people are happy in their workplace? And is it something that we can control? Or is it something that we need to help you in a different way? So I think that is something that we're really open to, and that both my managers that report to me are open to, and the people that report to them are also really good about coming up and saying hi and working on things to make sure that they're happy when they come into work. I mean, that's important.
Well, I would say the United culture is pretty amazing, because most of the people that have worked there have been there for a long time. You included. You didn't have to leave your company to get a promotion, for one thing, right? You had leadership opportunities, but the salesman, the staff, and Matt's come in as a leadership role only because, Ronnie retired and he had, big shoes to fill and stuff. And so there hasn't been a lot of turnover in United. Talk to us about there's a lot of advantages to that, but the culture required, the leadership required to have a stable, loyal team.
I think that's important. It's nice to have that security when you bring up the people that have been there for a long time and they've seen a lot, they know a lot. When something changes, they have a voice of reason, so you don't panic. Panic! I don't know, something's different. So they've been through things quite a bit, and they're that sustaining force that we have within the company to make sure that it's going forward. Sometimes it's hard to get them to change, but I think that's where some people like Matt coming in with a different perspective will help them see things a little differently and change the way that we're hoping to grow and aspire to be within the next, 5, 10, 20 years. United still wants to be around. We don't want to go anywhere. So how do we make sure that we're available to do that? So I think that we've got a good mix right now of the people that have been here for a long time and are still driving Mr. Swisher's vision of the company, as well as the family's vision of where the company is going to go. But then we also have some change leaders that we've brought in who are going to be able to help, marry that, what we need to do with change with the vision with the family and how we're going to be able to drive everything with the growth there. So I think that, it's great having a little bit of both coming in. And the big thing about the culture is that we're all pretty loyal to it. We trust the products, and that helps. We know the research that has been gone into these products, and that helps. And everybody kind of feels like family. I remember the first Christmas party I went to, and Mr. Swisher was like, "Who's sitting by people we don't know?" And nobody raised their hand, but it was kind of like we all knew each other, right? It wasn't that we were not getting to know anybody else. It's just that we knew each other. We were all, if we didn't know each other right away, we'd all meet each other right away, and say hi and do something like that. And so that was kind of eye-opening for me to be in a room full of people and be able to name quite a few of them, and really have only been in the company for like a year. So I think that just speaks to what kind of company I'm working for.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been competitors against United. You've been my customers. Ronnie and I have served on a committee together. And, so I've gotten to know the company quite a lot. And, for the most part, it's my backyard growing up and things. And so it's just unique to see that company rise up, family owned, under that direction, change and evolve, because you're not just a nutrition company anymore. You put the health in there because you've developed other products outside of nutrition as well.
Yeah, that's right. And, we've got a partnership with GenVax. So that's something else we're getting into. And then we've got our specialty products across species, where really we know it's just about keeping the animals healthy. The more we keep them healthy and make sure they're growing, the better the producers are going to be. And I know Mr. Swisher has stepped away, but Ellen Crabb has stepped up, and she is an amazing woman. She's got a fantastic backstory on what she's been able to do. So having her start to lead the company as the chairman of the board has been really neat. How she goes with Mr. Swisher's vision, and then, but again, what the family wants, it's really cool.
It's cool. Well, there's a topic I want to talk about, because this is why you're one of my heroes out there that, I would have never known until you said something, but you fought cancer and you won. Walk us through that journey for you and how you kept your career going, kept your sanity, got your health right, and give us some insights on that so we know how to support others going through similar experiences.
Yeah. So this was when I was actually 37, was when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer. So I think, saying mammogram when you're 40 gets kind of scary, because that could have been missed by me. So I think one thing that I am going to say right now, women, is to make sure you're doing your checks and going to your doctor, because they're starting to find cancer a lot earlier, and the earlier you get it diagnosed, the better you're going to be. One thing that I was trying to think about, how I handled cancer versus how other people could get the news. And I don't know if it's just being a scientist or just being somebody who wants a solution and wants a plan, but it was I never thought of it as a death sentence, I guess. I don't want to say it that way. When I first got the phone call that, my biopsy had come back and it was cancer, it was like, okay, what's the plan? Who am I meeting with? What do I need to do? Where are we going? I didn't even shed a tear until somebody gave me a hug, which is why I'm not a hugger. Like, don't hug me. But it was always what's the plan to defeat this? What can we do to defeat this? How do we just get rid of it? I went through a lot of biopsies, and that helped shape my decision to go ahead and just have a double mastectomy, because they were doing biopsies on both sides at that point in time, and I didn't want to have to deal with anything in the future. So I had a double mastectomy. I had lots of surgeries after that. I think the important thing is to know your doctors and trust your doctors. I love my plastic surgeon. He's the best. And she made sure I was comfortable with everything we did after having the double mastectomy and the reconstruction surgeries that we had to have. I've been through several oncologists just because of some hospital changes and administration changes that went through. But all of them have been very good about asking questions, making sure that the treatment that they plan that they had for me was really good. I was pretty good about asking them questions when I didn't understand, making sure that I knew the treatment plan was good for me and what needed to happen too. As far as kind of mental health things that were good for me was my mom came and stayed with me, which was nice because I didn't have to adult for a little while. So that was good. But, they did a meal train for me. Lots of people from work would come and drop off the meals. Friends would come and do a meal train for me. And it was nice to have the people from work come and check on me. And, if I was feeling good, we'd sit and chat for a little while. If I wasn't feeling good, then, at least I knew they were thinking of me and trying to make sure I was still safe and happy and things were getting taken care of. The good thing about working at United is that it wasn't that I wasn't going to come back to work here. It was just let us know when you're ready to come back to work. I did go on short-term disability the first time I had cancer. And that was just kind of nice to not have to worry too much about the job. I did try to write an email one time that took me an hour to do about three sentences. So it's chemo brain is real. And it was pretty entertaining. My mom was laughing at me. She was like, "Why are you doing? What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm trying to write an email." She's like, "How far have you gotten?" I was like, "Hello." That's it. So I think just having the support of your coworkers was really nice. They would check on me. They would make sure I was okay. They'd send text messages. So I never had a doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to be able to step back into the role and make sure that everything was fine. So that was the first time I got cancer. I actually was diagnosed again, even despite all the double mastectomy and the chemo that I went through the first time. It came back in 2020. And that was a little bit different because then we had COVID. So that one, since we were already working from home, I would take the days off I needed. My treatments were a little heavier this time because it was a recurrence, and it was a recurrence within 3 years. So the second time I had it, I would kind of take the chemo days off and rest. And then the other week, since we were working from home, I would just work because I wasn't having to come in anyway. And I was a little bit better about not spending 3 hours trying to compose an email, but it was, it was good. So I kind of knew what to expect the second time. And it was easier to just kind of stay focused and stay working and keep doing what I could do. So, but yeah, now I've been free for 3 years now, still seeing oncologists, still on some medications, but for the most part, everything's looking good.
Amazing. Wow. What has that changed you about health? And you've talked about, team building, prioritizing mental health. What has changed your mindset of having to go through that so young in your life?
I think I listen to my body a lot more. We talked about active listening. Don't forget to actively listen to yourself. When my body is tired, when my body needs a rest, I know it's fun to go out and do lots of things and experience lots of things, but if your body is tired, make sure you give it a rest. It's telling you it needs something. It's telling you something's wrong. So just like any other, I work so hard on gut health. I need to work on my own gut health. I need to make sure I'm listening to myself. And I think that that's been the key takeaway that I've had from the diagnoses that I've had.
Has there been any other lifestyle changes that you've implemented, either during or after the fact to kind of either make sure it doesn't come back again or whatnot?
I think there's some dietary changes that can be done, but there's nothing that's really been proven about it. I stay active. I was always active riding a horse anyway, but now I'm more active. So I make sure that I'm riding my horse for, 5 to 6 days a week instead of just 3 days a week. I try to really stay active that way. And again, I think the other lifestyle change is I do rest more. I do make sure that I take the time to heal my body and let it be just calm sometimes, and really just rest it and let it heal itself the way it needs to.
Well, that's awesome. Like I said, you're my hero. I can't, and you're saying strong, and I know you're strong and everything, but to lose your sense of being a female and going through all that, and then it coming back and like the warrior mentality that I'm going to keep going on is amazing. And you inspire me, Adrienne. So thank you. The other thing I want to talk about, because I think you have some really good insights as a leader, and I love the fact you're in this role and you have this large two teams underneath you, but you're a transplant. Your family is presumably still in Texas.
Yeah.
My family's in Michigan and I'm in Arkansas, so we're like swapped. What's that like? Because I think this is something we also don't talk about, how to support colleagues who have to, relocate away from home. And we have international colleagues, several of them that I know from China and different places are lucky to get home every 2 years. How do you bring that in so they feel included when they don't have a good support structure, family close by?
I think in making sure people are included in, you have work family, who your work besties are, who your work family is. I used to do, before my friends and coworkers' families moved up here, we would just have Friendsgiving, of course. It's a great way to get your coworkers together. We've done recently with some other transplants here in Indiana. They've started just some girls' nights out just to make sure we get out and either have a game night or just go to dinner or something to see people outside of the office. And I think that helps a lot. Some other things that I got involved in when I first moved here was I got involved in the Junior Chamber International, so JCI, which was, under 40 people, just how to meet people and understand. It's hard to make friends as an adult, right? When you're a student, you go to the university and everybody's your age and you know where to go and you have a good time and you immediately have friends because they're all immersed in the same world that you're in. When you're an adult, it's like, hi, I'm new here. Anybody want to be my friend? So I think, like I said, just seeing people outside of the office, you're immersed in the same kind of field. You have the same passions. That's why you're in the role that you're in. So if you see people outside of the office or some of those young professional organizations are really good. And then obviously being a horse girl, I've got my barn family, and they're always there for me too. So I was lucky in those ways to have that. But most people are passionate about something and they have a hobby. So find a way to get a group in your hobby, whether that's a running group or a cycling group, or if you're in a knitting club or a book club, that's going to help you find friends that are passionate about the same things you are. And that's going to help you find your family in the other area that you're in. So, luckily when I was here, I have 2 cousins that live in the area. So I wasn't as alone as I could have been. And then after my second bout with cancer, my mom actually has moved up here as well. So now we're just trying to convince my brother to move up here, and which I think he might be harder to move away from Texas than my mom and I were, but it's okay.
Yeah. And I bring this up because there are some people that I consider friends in the industry and some different people who may be a little older than us that are very, and then you hear this debate out in the world about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we only assume that's a race card issue. But when we look at company culture, we need diversity of people, backgrounds, where they're from, the fact that you were a horse person and transcend it into swine, you brought so much value to our industry using the pig as a model. And I use that as an example of diversity of background, women rising to the roles. And it's, and I just wanted you to touch on the experiences that we've had similar in our lives, right? You've had scary times with your health. I had a scary situation with mine, my son, rising to the top, and people look up at us as inspiring. And I just think it's a big turmoil right now that DEI gets a bad rep, but it's really you as leaders, as you as even coworkers, taking that to say, hey, this person just moved here all the way from Texas. How do we help her get involved with different things? How do we help her network? Or, they're not there at Thanksgiving. I'm the one that invites as I call it, adopt family, graduate students, different things to come have Thanksgiving at my house. It's just something I've always done ever since I've been working on the hog farm in the university. And that's why I wanted to bring it up in a positive way that you talked about it. And I think it's so important that it's a balance that we're all happy, like you said, and we'll be more successful together.
Yeah. I think anything that we can do to create a feeling of being needed, I think that's kind of part of the happiness circle, right? Is to feel needed and feel included in something and feel like you're bigger than something. And I think it does take all types of people with that diversity. It's not a race thing. It's an experience thing. Obviously, I am not a pig person. I'm getting there, but
after how many years?
Yeah, I like to eat the pigs, but
don't call yourself a pig.
I know. I automatically, I do like the pigs. It's fine, but I always still consider myself a horse girl. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, we talk about even the pay gap that we have. We talk about women not having the same opportunities that men have, and that's part of the diversity, equality, and inclusion portion of it, is that we should get those same opportunities, and we should be those same promotion scales, and we should be making the same amount of money if we're doing the same job. And that's just all there is to it. And I think that talking about it more, making people aware of it more, that's going to help more than anything else. Just be an advocate for yourself and for other people within your industry, and make sure that you're standing up for what you believe all the time.
I couldn't agree more. And I know you were another one that would stick up for herself. I've had to in my career, and I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah. Now I have a platform and ability to stick up for other people. And I appreciate you sharing some very wise wisdom and thoughts on Coffee in the Barn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you.